The year is 2012. You're in the car, or at Target, or anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter. You're hearing this drum beat, these piano chords, and you know exactly how that first line goes. But do you know the band behind the song? Fun was a band that felt like it was rocketed to international levels of stardom overnight. One day you'd never heard of them, the next you couldn't escape We Are Young for the life of you. This stardom would lead them to insane heights of success, including 6 Grammy nominations, multiple chart-topping songs, and a powerful legacy as one of indie rock's most iconic acts of all time. At the peak of their fame, however, Fun called it quits. Just as quickly as they had appeared and made an impact on the pop music scene, they had disbanded. How could a band with so much momentum behind it just throw in the towel overnight? Well, it's not that simple. Let's talk about the tragic rise and fall of Fun. Before we can talk about Fun, we have to talk about the individual pieces, the characters who make up the band and tell this story. Fun was a trio consisting of Nate Ruess, Andrew Dost, and Jack Antonoff. Nate Ruess was the frontman of Fun, but prior to that, he was part of the indie rock duo known as The Format. That band would dissolve in 2008, leaving Ruess eager to continue his career in music. Andrew Dost was a multi-instrumentalist within Fun, responsible for playing an impressive list of instruments on the band's 2 albums. He was also a member of the indie rock band anathallo, I don't know, the name's on screen. If there's any one name you recognize from these 3, however, it's definitely Jack Antonoff. Formerly of the band Steel Train, Antonoff's role in Fun was similar to Dost's as a multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, and occasionally as a vocalist. The Format, Anathallo, and Steel Train had all toured with one another over the years, so these 3 lads were somewhat familiar with one another. When The Format broke up in February of 2008, Nate reached out to both Andrew and Jack, asking them if they'd join a new band he was forming. Within the week, the trio was in person working together on new material, and just like that, Fun was born. In August of that year, their work would finally be tangible in the form of a single known as Benson Hedges. While not a song that I return to all that frequently, I love the lyrical themes of the song, discussing constant travel and feeling a sense of place. It feels like the glimpse into the life of a touring musician, a peek behind the curtains to see that things maybe aren't quite as glamorous as they're made up to be, which also makes for a very humanizing and empathetic first song to put out into the world. The trio would continue recording music for their debut album across fall of 2008, with Nate reaching out to Stephen McDonald, who produced the Format's sophomore album, Dog Problems. McDonald would go on to produce, engineer, and mix the band's debut album, as well as provide backing vocals and bass lines. Finally, spring of 2009 would see the release of a new song, At Least I'm Not As Sad As I Used To Be, which was available for free by signing up for the band's mailing list. With the release of that song came another announcement, however. The announcement that Fun's debut studio album, Aim and Ignite, was slated for an August release of that year. Aim and Ignite would release to generally positive reviews. Drew Barringer of AbsolutePunk.net praised the album for its lyrical strengths and positive mood, citing it as one of the most fulfilling albums he's heard in a while, and as the most essential pop album of 2009. Dave DeSilvia of Sputnik Music, on the other hand, praised the album for its mixing and production, stating that Aim and Ignite served as a very exciting launchpad for Fun, with a massive amount of potential underneath it. Aim and Ignite contains the perfect mix of charming composition and theatrical production, and it makes for a wonderful intro to the tone of Fun, which on this project is a folksy indie rock type sound. While it's definitely a grandiose project, Aim and Ignite never feels like it goes over the top or overstays its welcome. Several songs on this record cross the 4-minute mark, but they don't feel like they've been stretched out just for the sake of making Aim and Ignite a longer project. Songs like Be Calm, The Gambler, and Take Your Time Coming Home all warrant their lengths, with beautiful harmonies, crisp lead vocals from Nate, and breathtaking composition that includes pianos, trumpets, and guitars, among other instruments that I'm sure I'm missing. Like I said, Aim and Ignite is iconic for its distinct theatrical sound, with several critics praising Nate's incredible vocal range, comparing the outfit to Queen in some cases. My personal favorite song from this project is All the Pretty Girls, which takes a pretty standard indie rock beat and carefree vocals, and blends some beautiful strings into the mix.
All the pretty girls on a Saturday night.
2009 was mostly taken up by the release of Aim and Ignite, so when 2010 rolled around, Fun was ready to hit the road again and play some live shows. In the winter, the band opened for Jack's Mannequin, marking their first shows in the UK, before going on to open up for Paramore alongside Relient K, and then embarking on their first full UK tour in May. The rest of the year would see them playing in a handful of festivals, as well as a few shows with Steel Train, Jack's band. 2010 saw another important development for the band. While initially hesitant on signing with a label, the trio ultimately decided to give it a try in 2010 when Fun signed to the major label Fueled by Ramen, a name that you've probably heard before. If not, you definitely know a lot of artists that got their rise through this label, bands like Paramore, Gym Class Heroes, Jimmy Eat World, and Fall Out Boy, among others. Fun was now among the ranks of those legendary bands, but little did they know, they were about to cement themselves as legends in their own right. 2011 saw the band doing, you guessed it, even more touring. They played Coachella that year on the same bill as massive artists like Kanye West and The Strokes, as well as other up-and-comers like Foster the People and Ellie Goulding. Over the summer, the band would open up for Panic at the Disco on their Vices and Virtues tour. Having just released a collaboration together in May of that year, titled Come On, it only made sense for the bands to tour together, and as both a massive fan of Fun and a massive fan of Panic at the Disco, I'm just mad that I missed these two singing together live. To be fair though, I was literally 11, so I'm not sure what I expected myself to do. Surprisingly though, touring with one of my favorite bands of all time wasn't the most impactful thing that Fun would do in 2011. In September of that year, the band would release the lead single of their sophomore album, We Are Young. And I don't think I need to tell you just how impactful of a song this was. Here's the thing though, We Are Young initially flopped. No, I'm not kidding. It got some attention online, and it got a little bit of commercial radio play, but not much else. That is, until it was featured on a hit network cable musical dramedy, Glee.
Give me a second eye.
We Are Young's appearance in Glee got the song to chart, attracting the attention of Chevrolet, who used the song in a Super Bowl commercial in February of 2012. And that's when everything changed.
Don't you know?
Fun.
Fun.
We are young.
What about Fun?
We are young. We are young.
We are young. Your voice is so pretty.
Pretty?
We Are Young took the world by storm. We're talking Imagine Dragons levels of unavoidable. Browsing Target, We Are Young. Middle school dance, We Are Young. Tuning your radio, We Are Young, which isn't surprising at face value, but we're talking about non-music stations covering this song and the band's explosion. You know how I first heard about Fun and heard my first snippet of We Are Young? NPR.
And if you're just joining us, this is Weekends on All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Guy Raz, and it's time now for music.
Fun was at heights of popularity they had never seen before, and they weren't stopping there. On February 21st, 2012, just 2.5 weeks since We Are Young's meteoric takeoff, the trio's sophomore album, Some Nights, would be released to mixed reviews. Some praised the band for their energy and creativity, with Adam Knott of Sputnik Music stating that the album lives off its own charisma and builds brilliance out of its ideas. On the other hand, some criticized Some Nights' over-the-top nature. Ray Rahman of Entertainment Weekly stated that he felt the album was front-loaded with its best tracks, and criticized Some Nights' auto-tune verses, 7-minute freak-funk jams, and awkward hip-hop beats. Despite what any critics had to say though, Some Nights was a commercial success, debuting at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and selling 70,000 copies in its first week. By February of 2015, just 3 years later, Some Nights had eclipsed 1.6 million copies sold. Personally, Some Nights is my favorite Fun album, but I can understand the critics giving mixed reviews. This is an inconsistent album if you ask me, with incredibly polished high points like All Alone, Carry On, and Stars, as well as some obnoxious low moments such as One Foot and It Gets Better. Especially It Gets Better, I really don't like this song. Some Nights also feels like a pretty sharp departure from the likes of Aim and Ignite, ditching the folksy sound in favor of a more heavily produced tone. Apparently Nate was listening to a ton of hip-hop during the production of Some Nights, which led to the band to drift from the sound that they had established on their last record. This influence is a lot more apparent on some tracks than others, such as All Alone, Stars, and All Alright, but I personally think it's implemented pretty tastefully. Picking my favorite track from Some Nights is really difficult. Despite how big of a song it is, We Are Young honestly ranks pretty low on the album for me, but that's definitely due to overplayedness in some capacity. Some Nights and Carry On have always been special to me since I basically grew up with them, but I love the bleak subject matter of Why Am I the One, the production on All Alone, and just about everything on Stars. Even the bonus track, Out on the Town, is a song that I find myself going back to quite frequently. It might not be the most consistent project in the world, but Some Nights is an album that I just can't seem to put down, no matter how many times I listen to it. With their newfound success, the band spent a good amount of time touring. Spring of 2012 saw the band touring the US in support of Some Nights, while that fall and winter saw them head to Europe with Walk the Moon as an opener. Yeah, that Walk the Moon. In the summer of 2013, Fun embarked on their Most Nights summer tour with Tegan and Sara as their opening act. 2013 also saw another important development for the band. In 2012, the year prior, Nate teamed up with the singer Pink to write Just Give Me a Reason. After feeling like the song fit better with two singers than just one, Pink asked Nate to feature on the track. Not Fun, just Nate. Just Give Me a Reason was met with critical acclaim and exploded in popularity heading into 2013, eventually peaking at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April of that year. All of this is going to be really important later, so just keep it in mind for now. If any achievement is most notable, though, it's Fun's 6 Grammy nominations in 2013, of which they won 2, Best New Artist and Best New Song with We Are Young. They also won a Billboard Music Award for Top Rock Artist, an MVPA Award for Best Alternative Video with Why Am I the One, and 2 Teen Choice Awards for Choice Rock Group and Choice Rock Song with We Are Young.
We've been doing this for 12 years, and I just gotta say that we could not do this without the help of all the fans that we've had keeping us afloat for the last 12 years. You guys have been our biggest, I guess we felt like your best kept secret through all that time, so thank you guys so much.
Nate, Jack, and Andrew were at the top of their game, the peak of their popularity. But what happens when egos get in the way? This is what some might call the beginning of the end. 2014 saw Fun sharing 2 new songs with their audience, the first of which being Sight of the Sun. Stylistically, Sight of the Sun feels like a fusion of Some Nights and Aim and Ignite. It blends some of those acoustic guitars and violins from Aim and Ignite with the artificial hip-hoppy drums of Some Nights, a combination that surprisingly works well. It also covers a really interesting subject matter. The music industry was plagued with songs about heartbreak even back then, but Sight of the Sun talks about settling down and getting over the fear of commitment, a unique perspective that I don't think we see all that often. Apparently this track was originally intended to be on Some Nights, was scrapped, and then was brought back to life when Jack's then partner, Lena Dunham, asked to use it for her show, Girls. It may not be a song I go back to all that frequently, but when I do, Sight of the Sun is a good listen, and that's enough for me. The second song of 2014 would be Harsh Lights, a song that they premiered on Jimmy Fallon in June of that year. As far as I know, this song never made it to iTunes or other music delivery services of that time, but it's a song they performed on other tour dates that year. Similar to Just Give Me a Reason, keep Harsh Lights in mind, this won't be the last time you hear about it. Now, this is where the band's history gets a little vague for me. A 2025 article from Trill alleges that the band confirmed a third album was on the way, but I can't find any evidence of this statement whatsoever. The closest I've found is a blog update on Fun's website, where Nate stated that the band would be doing more touring that year, but that's obviously no confirmation of a new album. What I do know is that, aside from Sight of the Sun and Harsh Lights, 2014 would come and go without much excitement or fanfare for the band, with minimal touring and, from what I can tell, very little work on upcoming music. 2015 would not be the same, although I don't know if exciting is the right word. Dramatic? Shocking? Maybe I'll let you decide for yourself. In February of 2015, Fun announced their indefinite hiatus via their website. From the get-go, the band was quick to state that this was just a hiatus and not a permanent breakup, but nearly 11 years later, the break is starting to feel quite extensive. This obviously begs the question, what the hell happened? In their update, Fun cited evolving interests as a reason to take a break from the band. Nate had a desire to explore his solo career, Jack was seeing a pretty good amount of success with his own solo project, Bleachers, and Andrew was creating scores for film. The trio was simply more interested in pursuing other opportunities than continuing what they had with Fun, without feeling like they were forcing Fun to work. All things considered, I think that's pretty valid. Behind the scenes, however, things were allegedly a little stickier between the trio. Let's go back to Just Give Me a Reason for a second. This song was not only wildly successful for Pink, but for Nate Ruess as well. It was glaring evidence that Nate wasn't bound to fun, that he can make it as a solo artist, a route that Nate decided he wanted to explore. When he wasn't with the band, Nate was writing songs of his own, and whereas before he would have brought these songs to Jack and Andrew so they could all contribute to the music together, he instead took the self-admitted selfish route of keeping them to himself, working on them by his lonesome. Eventually, he would inform his bandmates that he wanted to pursue these tracks by himself, that he didn't want to create a new fun album, news that Jack and Andrew reportedly did not take so well. Regardless, Nate would continue to work on his solo album, including Fun's Harsh Light on the tracklist. Admittedly, I have no clue if there are any other songs on this album that were initially intended for Fun, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if more than just Harsh Light were there. Nate's solo album, Grand Romantic, would eventually release in June of 2015. This is probably the part of the video where you expect me to tear into Grand Romantic, but I think it's actually got a handful of cute moments. Hell, I own this one on vinyl, I actually kinda like it. Nate's vocals are as sharp as ever, the trademark fun grandiosity is still there, and the lyrics are, for the most part, moving and serve to establish Nate as a relatable figure we can empathize with. What I will say, though, is that the absence of Jack and Andrew is blatant. Several tracks on Grand Romantic either feel incomplete, as if they're missing some key element to take the song from just good to great, or overstay their welcome, as if there wasn't anyone in the studio telling Nate, okay man, this is a good time to stop. There are quite a few tracks that I return to off Grand Romantic, most commonly Aha, Nothing Without Love, and, of course, Harsh Light, but my favorite is probably Moment. A song that actually feels like it earns its 4-minute runtime with powerful vocals, a grand swelling instrumental, and amazing pacing. While it did generally receive positive reviews, Grand Romantic was no stranger to criticism. Music journalists would point out the album's lack of depth in its songwriting, Nate's tendency to go over the top with his vocals, and the album's general lack of fanfare and definition. Grand Romantic sold less than 30,000 copies in its first week, and aside from a few guest features over the years, this album would be Nate's only endeavor into solo music. And just like that, things were quiet again. Fun was no more. That brings us to today. We're coming up on 11 years since Fun's breakup, which posed the obvious question, what are Nate, Andrew, and Jack up to these days? Let's start with our frontman Nate Ruess. Following Grand Romantic, Nate would continue to write songs for other artists, with credits as a songwriter on tracks from Keith Urban, Halsey, and Kesha, among others. He'd also start a podcast about the Lethal Weapon TV series, but more recently, he and his former bandmate Sam Means have revived the format. They initially planned reunion shows in 2020, which were postponed and eventually canceled by the COVID pandemic, but this year, the band finally reunited again, announcing that their first album in over 20 years, Boycott Heaven, will be released in early 2026. Andrew Dost has been out of the limelight for some time, but that's not to say he hasn't been active as a musician. Currently, he's part of the jazz bossa nova group Metal Bubble Trio, but prior to that, he spent some time teaching at Interlochen Center for the Arts, and made some musical NFTs. I guess it's good to have a diverse resume. Jack Antonoff, on the other hand, has arguably been even more successful in recent years than he ever was with Fun. Not only is Bleacher seeing wild levels of success, but he's also produced music for some of the biggest artists on the planet, including Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar, and Lana Del Rey, among others. Jack's a busy man, and it's so cool to see him having so much success in the wake of Fun. There are few worse feelings than falling in love with a musical artist just to find out that they've broken up, that you'll never hear new music from them, that you'll never see them live on tour. This isn't always the case, of course. Musical artists rise from the dead every other week like it's nothing now. But in the case of Fun, I don't expect that we'll be seeing them again anytime soon, let alone at all. When asked about the prospects of reuniting, Jack was pretty quick to dismiss any notion that Fun would be seeing the light of day, stating, maybe one day I'll get nostalgic, but I'm not there yet, in an interview with Time. At the end of the day, all of the band members seem pretty happy with their current situations, and that's what matters the most. As the trio stated when they went on hiatus, music isn't, or at least shouldn't be, about cashing in checks. It should be about the artistry, about loving the craft. Now, whether or not that was true or just a PR excuse isn't my place to say, but I think it's an important philosophy to keep in mind when looking back on Nate, Jack, and Andrew's short but impactful tenure as Fun.